Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, Indiana football continues their dominant start. We will bring you the highlights from their first Big Ten win of the season.
And Indiana men's soccer dropped their second conference match of the season. We'll give you the recap. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Jet Garrett.
And I'm Dana Belmer. Jet, it was a great game this past Saturday. How'd you feel?
It was an unbelievable atmosphere, just top to bottom, just amazing. On Saturday, Indiana football did something no Big Ten school has ever done. The Hoosiers' 63-10 win over the number 9 Illinois were the most points scored by a Big Ten school against an AP top 10 opponent. Let's check out the highlights. Indiana, Illinois under the lights. Second time these two teams have ever faced off in a ranked matchup. Crowd was absolutely electric. Got off to a hot start. D'Angelo Pons off the edge, blocks the punt, scoops it up, scores the touchdown. Indiana quickly takes a 7-0 lead. You think these fans heard it was a big game? They're wasting beverages I would never waste. And how about this? Omar Cooper Jr. had 4 touchdowns last week, starts the game off with a touchdown this week. Hot start for the Indiana kid. And speaking of hot starts, how about the Cal transfer, Fernando Mendoza? He's the new Heisman favorite. Had 5 touchdowns in this one to E.J. Williams. I've got goosebumps just watching this. What's that line from the Karate Kid? Get him a body bag. Kalen Black takes off. He's in the end zone. You know, the spread in this game was 6.5 points. I think Indiana thought it was 6.5 touchdowns. And what's 6.5? What's that in between? Can you help me out here? Is there someone? Oh, Kobe, 6'7". Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Indiana goes on to win 63-10. The Hoosiers will travel to Iowa next week to take on the Hawkeyes from Kinnick Stadium. The Hoosiers' quest for perfection continues this Saturday for their first road game of the season against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Our Joe Cronin and Graham Nash will be in Iowa City providing coverage all game long.
On Sunday, Indiana women's soccer traveled to Piscataway, New Jersey to face the Scarlet Knights. Rutgers started the game off strong with multiple shots on goal and found the back of the net for the first time in the 20th minute. The Hoosiers had some key defensive plays, but they struggled to gain momentum on the offensive end. The Scarlet Knights would go on to secure the win with their final goal in the second half, improving to 3-1-4. This loss drops the Hoosiers to a 3-4-2 record, but they'll be back in action this Thursday as they welcome the Washington Huskies to Bill Armstrong Stadium at 8.
The women's tennis team has been playing in the ITA All-American Championships in Cary, North Carolina. Let's take a look at how they did. In singles, Nicole Theodesescu lost 1-3, 3-6, and Alessandra Theodesescu lost 6-6. They both squared off as teammates for the doubles and ended up losing 6-6. Women's tennis next event is the Hoosier Classic October 3rd through the 5th at the IU Tennis Center. That's all for women's tennis. However, men's tennis also competed this past weekend in the ITA All-American Championships. Benjamin Pomerantz suffered an 0-2 loss, as did Jip Van Assendelft, losing 1-2. Michael Andre and Facundo Yunus both got wins in their individual matches, winning 2-1 and 2-0, respectively. The doubles duo of Michael Andre and Sam Landau came away with the 7-6 win. The IU men's tennis team will be out on the courts next Thursday, September 25th at the Milwaukee Classic.
After starting their season 8-0, the Indiana volleyball team suffered their first loss of the season on Friday against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. The Hoosiers were competitive with the Hilltoppers, playing 2 deuce sets for the first time this season. Despite their best efforts, the Hoosiers fell to the Hilltoppers 0-3. However, Indiana bounced back on Saturday with a 3-1 win over Bradley University, moving the Hoosiers to 9-1 on the season. The weekend's offensive efforts were led by junior opposite hitter Avery Tatum, who had 32 total kills over the weekend and an average hitting percentage of .521. On the defensive side, freshman libero Audrey Jackson led the way with 24 digs and 5 assists on the weekend. Next up for the Hoosiers, they play their first conference game of the season at Northwestern on Wednesday before their first home conference game against Washington on Saturday.
Coming up after the break, we crown this week's Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week.
And go over field hockey's battle against a top 10 opponent. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night.
Joining us in studio for this week's Hoosier Highlight is IUSTV sports reporter Chase Satowski.
Thanks, Dana. Primetime, under the lights, and a familiar rival. What was set to be IU's biggest test inside of Memorial Stadium all season turned into maybe the greatest outcome Hoosier fans could have hoped for. Although efforts were tremendous all around, quarterback Fernando Mendoza has earned this week's Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week. The junior quarterback from Miami, Florida, catapulted his name into the Heisman conversation with a dominant performance this past Saturday. 21 completions on 23 attempts, 267 yards to go along with 5 touchdowns and 0 turnovers. Just based off that, you may think I'm reading the box score of the Indiana State game, but no, this was against number 9 ranked Illinois. Yeah, Mendoza just does that. For his incredible performance, Mendoza won awards such as Maxwell National Player of the Week, the Davey O'Brien National Quarterback of the Week, and Big Ten Co-Offensive Player of the Week, along with 4 other awards. In his biggest test, when the lights were shining at their brightest, Mendoza came through for the Cream and Crimson. Fernando Mendoza, this week's Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week. Back to you.
The Indiana men's soccer team wrapped up a brief 2-game road trip in East Lansing against the Michigan State Spartans. After a scoreless first half, Michigan State's Peter Sudan fires a lovely shot off the back post and past Indiana goalkeeper Holden Brown. Later in the half, IU's Collins Oduro crosses it to the top goal scorer Palmer Alt, who has his point-blank chance turned away by the keeper. Indiana was ultimately unable to find the equalizer, falling to MSU 2-1. The Hoosiers fall to 1-2 in the Big Ten play and will return home on Friday night to take on the UCLA Bruins. Follow our IUSTV Sports men's soccer beat reporters all season long for updates.
Indiana Hoosiers played Iowa back-to-back this weekend on Friday and Saturday, ultimately falling to the Hawkeyes both games. Here's Lily Newman with more on the results.
The Indiana Hoosiers fell to the number 11 ranked team, Iowa, twice this weekend on their home turf. It started on Friday when they fell to the Hawkeyes 3-2. Although allowing 3 goals in the final 3 quarters of the game, Indiana pushed through with 2 goals in the last 2 quarters of the game. On Sunday, when the Hawkeyes returned to Deborah Tobias, the Hoosiers looked ready to make a comeback. The Hawkeyes put up the first goal in the first quarter, along with 2 other goals in the third and fourth quarter. Indiana pushed a goal in the fourth quarter, ultimately ending the game 3-1. The Hoosiers will have time to learn about their next opponent, which is Northwestern, the number 1 seeded team in the country, who they play against on Friday, September 26th, away in Illinois.
The Indiana Hoosiers continue their season on Friday against Northwestern, hoping to make a comeback in their season.
It was a busy weekend for Indiana golf as both the men's and women's team participated in a tournament. The men's golf team traveled to Illinois where they played in the Finding Illini Invitational. It was a rough team outing for the Hoosiers as they were unable to recreate last week's top 3 performance, finishing in 15th place. Nick Peason shot a team best 6 over on the tournament. Peason was the only golfer able to crack the top 50 for the Hoosiers. The Hoosiers look to regroup next week as they play in the Indy at Forest Hills. Women's golf team continues their solid start to the season as they claim yet another top 10 team finish. The Hoosiers played in the Mason Rudolph Invitational hosted by Vanderbilt University. Madison DeBaggia continues her early season tier shooting below par, again at 4 under for the tournament. Maddie May was able to claim a share of 19th place after a solid tournament from her. The Hoosiers travel to play the Nite Invitational next week at Medina Country Club.
Before we go, our Dylan Rome breaks down what's happening this weekend in Hoosier athletics with the Candy Stripe calendar. Dylan?
Thanks, guys. Hoosier Nation has a huge weekend ahead. Women's volleyball lights up the court tonight and Saturday. Women's soccer kicks off tomorrow and Sunday. Men's soccer is soaring through the nation with a historical season, ranked number 3. They look for their 7th win against UCLA and reach big for their 9th championship in program history. Swim and dive splash into the first meet of the season. IU tennis continues their All-American Championship in North Carolina and Oklahoma. Softball has 2 games in Bloomington this weekend. And of course, IU football matches up with the Iowa Hawkeyes, looking for their 4th win and a ticket to the top 10 in AP polls. That's all for the Candy Stripe calendar. Thanks for tuning in, and back to you guys at the desk.
And that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports to keep up with all the latest in IU athletics. For our production crew behind us, I'm Jet Garrett.
And I'm Dana Belmer. We'll see you next week.
Bye.